The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998.
Hey, it's WWE Diva Eve Torres, and you're watching PWR on My 24, Milwaukee.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. It's a Friday night extra, David Hero.
Friday night?
Right after WWE SmackDown has gone off the air because another big match made for WWE Night of Champions, which is this Sunday on pay-per-view.
Because God forbid I don't want to screw up another Be the Booker.
Damian Nelson right here alongside David Hero. And David, coming on tomorrow night, it's our regular weekly edition of Primetime where we talk in-depthly about the situation with Jerry Lawler. And as you talk about last week, Be the Booker, TNA No Surrender, which was on pay-per-view, didn't quite work out as well as we thought it would. No. But for all of you, specifically here on YouTube, who are whining about our lack of TNA coverage,
there's that word again.
Why don't you start listening and watching to our Thursday night 1 hour long TNA specific broadcast called Sudden Impact Radio, which can be heard live.
That's a novel idea.
Which can be heard live after Impact Wrestling each and every week. Now, we do about a 45-minute long Raw post show, right?
Yes.
We do a 30-minute television show each week, and within that talk about most of the brands, sometimes TNA, sometimes not. So we cover Impact Wrestling on a time basis more than any other wrestling organization out there.
Wow.
Yet your friends out there, your little super friends on the internet out there, complain about our TNA coverage.
Because they want
to that I say, tough crap.
Whoa. That's hurtful.
Well, due to our taping schedule.
You know what? We had to get that. I wanted to get that off my chest.
I'm glad you feel better. I didn't say I felt better. I just said I wanted to get it off my chest.
I don't want you to get fired up because I know what happens, when you get excited.
I'm all good. We've got a guest joining us tomorrow night on Primetime to give a different perspective on this whole Jerry Lawler situation. I've made amends, and we're in a good place.
And don't forget, tomorrow night in Chicago Ridge, Ring of Honor pay-per-view.
It's a great point, David Hero. It's going to be
I will be
internet
down there.
pay-per-view.
Are you going to join me?
If the jet comes in, if the car comes and gets me in time. Anyways, let's get right to it, ladies and gentlemen. WWE Night of Champions this Sunday on pay-per-view. It's a big card, David Hero. Lots of championship matchups here. Let's start with one just made.
Wait. Before we go any further, I think we need to show the world that the Super Friends are still in first place.
Well, you actually have 1,095 points. I don't know who wrote 1,085.
And keep in mind, that is with me having no points out of Zack Ryder and no points out of Lord Tensai.
Why are you trying to justify your
I'm just saying,
closing gap
I am still
that I've been making?
Of domination over the Nelson family with not a full roster.
1,095 points to 1,015 points, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll take
thank Jeff Hardy and Austin Aries for all the points they got me on No Surrender last Sunday. But let's go through this Sunday's Night of Champions, not Night of Super Friends.
Whoa.
It is a match made on SmackDown just a few minutes ago. It's the Intercontinental Championship. It is a fatal four-way, David Hero, as The Miz will defend his championship against not one, not two, but three men, Cody Rhodes, Rey Mysterio, and Sin Cara. This could go any which way but loose, I guess.
You know what? It's interesting because Ray and Sin Cara have been a tag team the past couple weeks. Cody Rhodes and The Miz can't get on the same page to save their souls. You got to figure it's going to come down to Cody and The Miz, right? Because
there's talk of these two being a tag team, Sin Cara and Ray.
And they have been. And these two, Cody and Miz, have been on the outs. I honestly don't think that the booking committee, that the powers that be have decided who the fans are more behind, The Miz or Cody Rhodes. I can't see Sin Cara leaving
no chance
with the belt. Rey Mysterio, probably not either. It's going to come down.
He's a former IC champ.
And a former world champion. You know what? And
world heavyweight champ.
Let's not forget that 5 years ago, Rey Mysterio was the top-selling merchandising guy in the company. So he obviously has a strong fan following. Cody Rhodes and The Miz are going to be the final two guys. That's where the finish is going to lie. You know what? I'm going to go with The Miz. Even though Cody's on Team Super Friends and I would gain more points, they need a babyface right now. And The Miz is the guy. I can't believe I'm saying The Miz could be a babyface. But, I think for me personally, I am looking forward to a program between Cody Rhodes and The Miz. I think it has potential to be great. I think both guys are young lions that both need to break through that glass ceiling. And I think this here is the match where one guy is going to be Shawn Michaels, the other guy is going to be Marty Jannetty, and now we're going to find out if it's going to be The Miz or if it's going to be Cody Rhodes. What are you doing?
Well, I mean, with that shining endorsement you just gave to two endorsed talents, The Miz and Cody Rhodes, I figured it was time to bring the trophy out and just show the world that he is finally seeing the light of the trophy.
I'm not seeing any light, and the reflection is off your dome. What I'm saying is they need a new baby face, and Cody Rhodes is not a baby face. It's going to have to be The Miz.
I want to go a little different order than we have on the board here because of what Randy Orton said tonight on SmackDown about the possibilities of his matchup with Dolph Ziggler this Sunday night. Let's first go now to the World Heavyweight Championship matchup. And maybe we should talk about these two matches at the same time. Sheamus versus Alberto Del Rio again for the World Heavyweight Championship. However, we've got Dolph Ziggler, who holds the Money in the Bank briefcase, going up against Randy Orton. Now, what Orton said tonight on SmackDown was, if Dolph Ziggler cashes in their match and wins, their match then becomes for the World Heavyweight Championship, which adds an entirely different dynamic to what could happen between these two matchups. So let's assume that Sheamus and ADR is going to happen first. Okay. Let's talk about whether or not we expect a cash-in, and let's talk about what might happen if that cash-in happens.
Well, regardless of where this match falls on the show, Sheamus and ADR, my good God, how many more times are they going to have this match? They have it on Raw, they have it on SmackDown, they have it on Superstars, they have it on the video game, now it's on a pay-per-view again. Sheamus has to leave the champion. They're taking away the bro kick. Now he has a submission maneuver, okay? They're stacking the deck. You got Otunga, you have Ricardo, you got ADR, all against Sheamus. Sheamus has to leave the world champion, at least in this match, okay? But I wouldn't be surprised if those three guys leave Sheamus laying, which then would open the door
for perfection
for Dolph Ziggler to come down and cash it in. And the only reason why I say that is because if Dolph Ziggler is going to beat Sheamus, it's got to be because Sheamus has been completely taken out. And it's going to take all three of those guys to knock out, the Sheamus, the world champion. So
the bro kick is banned.
Yes. That being said, I expect Sheamus to win by submission. And then I expect Otunga and Ricardo to come down and get their revenge on Sheamus. If that's the route they're going to go, leave him laying for Ziggler to cash it in, get the 1, 2, 3, which then re-elevates Randy Orton because now he's a contender for Dolph. Can you imagine if he's the transitional champion for 30 minutes?
Wow, that could happen.
You know what I mean?
That could happen.
To give Randy Orton a top spot, because right now Randy Orton needs this belt far more than Sheamus does.
Really?
Absolutely. And Sheamus and Randy Orton is the match on SmackDown. I think those two guys can have a great match. I don't think that there's no more money left in Sheamus and Del Rio. That's done. Sheamus and Ziggler, they've had that match several times. It's been a while since Sheamus and Randy Orton. That's money. That's what they need going forward to re-elevate the Viper.
So does Ziggler cashes in, do you think?
I think Ziggler cashes in. He wins it only then to lose to Randy Orton. Now, but if they want to make Dolph Ziggler a strong champion, then he has to beat Randy Orton if he does cash in and beat Sheamus.
Did they tell us too much on SmackDown?
No, because what they did is they created something that is now sparking conversation, which is now putting doubts in everyone's head and saying, well, what if? What if this? What if that?
So here's how it's going to play out. This guy Sheamus is going to beat this guy Alberto Del Rio, who is then going to lose to this guy Ziggler, who cashes in, who is then going to lose to this guy Orton, who pins Ziggler after cashing in, putting back Orton and Sheamus in a program going forward, but they're both faces. Does Orton go heel then?
It doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't.
Well, we heard on Raw Monday night what the problem is when two faces go head-to-head for a year between Cena and Punk.
But that's Punk and that's Raw is a completely different animal than SmackDown. I think that what this does is it makes everything interesting on SmackDown where you're going to want to tune in and see what's going to happen next.
Fascinating scenario. Now, what if Dolphy does not cash in? Do you think Sheamus still wins?
Oh, yeah. There's no way ADR leaves Night of Champions the champion.
But Ziggler can cash in on ADR.
Of course he could. That wouldn't listen. If Ziggler cashes in, he's winning at Night of Champions, only to lose to Randy Orton. If that's how the show is going to be written.
Ziggler has not talked much about that briefcase lately.
What could happen is ADR beats Sheamus, and then the bro kick out of nowhere knocks out ADR, and then Dolph Ziggler will run down. Because how many times has ADR and Ziggler gotten in each other's way?
Yeah.
And we've all forgotten about that, except for right now.
Yep. It's great.
Dolph Ziggler, Night of Super Friends, is his night, only to drop it to Randy Orton.
Speaking of Super Friends, did I hear CM Punk say something about Super Friends this past Monday night on Raw?
CM Punk gave yours truly a shout out, and I know it drove you nuts. I know it did, and it's okay. It's fine.
Didn't drive me nuts. I've got an exclusive interview available with him.
Yes, you do.
Who else has that?
But he doesn't mention the Nelson family.
We have an agreement.
Super Friends.
And that makes me nauseous. Tag team championships on the line. R-Truth and Kofi Kingston will...
Stop. Forget it. This is the hottest thing going on Raw. Listen.
I'll give you props where they are due. You said weeks ago that you saw these two becoming a tag team due to that odd couple chemistry that was there.
They are so over, it's ridiculous.
We had a new anger management thing on SmackDown tonight.
You know, Raw being 3 hours long is obnoxious. I'm not going to lie, okay? Senior intern Cal and I, we sit down. He looks at me. He's like, 3 hours. He can't stand it. The one thing he could not wait for was anger management. He wanted Kane and Daniel Bryan Danielson. It's the most entertaining thing on Raw. It's the only thing that kind of broke the ice a little bit with the whole Jerry Lawler scenario. You know, it was like the only relief we had. Yeah. These two guys are going to leave the World Tag Team Champions. They don't. You know what? Uneventful tag team. They've done nothing. Kofi Kingston comes out in a suit and tie. That's not the Kofi we know and love. All they do is wrestle singles matches.
Well, the primetime players play a role in this matchup because they could argue that they were robbed of their number one contendership this past Monday night.
They could, but I hope not. Let Kane and Daniel Bryan, who are the most over tag team, if not the most over twosome on Raw right now, with the exception of Punk and Cena.
The Divas Championship on the line as Layla defends against Caitlyn, not Eve.
You got to figure Eve's going to be a factor in this somehow. Just because she's been over the top obnoxious, high-fiving, slapping butts, hugging and kissing, the whole thing. I'll be quite honest with you. This match does absolutely nothing for the pay-per-view whatsoever. I don't think anyone really cares who wins. I don't really think anyone would care if this match wasn't on the show. I think Layla has done a fantastic job being the Divas champion since Extreme Rules in Chicago. But who has she really had a good program with? With that being said, I would not be a bit surprised if Caitlyn wins the title only to lose it to Eve on Monday night. Another transitional champion.
It's another face you've picked. Face. You want him to be a face. Which leads us to the next matchup. The main event, if you will. And let's give props where they are due. John Cena did an absolutely tremendous job this past Monday night putting CM Punk in what at least CM Punk thought, what John Cena thought was his place.
Oh.
That was a stinging promo this past Monday night from John Cena, and he seemingly meant it, but it set up the matchup for this Sunday at pay-per-view, on pay-per-view, CM Punk defending the WWE Championship against John Cena.
And these two guys did a tremendous job following the Jerry Lawler scenario.
Situation, yeah.
I mean, these two guys went out there and they took this pay-per-view home. That Raw, up until that point, I had no reason to want to order this pay-per-view on Sunday night. CM Punk, Bret the Hitman Hart, and John Cena sold it to me, where even though, yes, I've seen Punk and Cena before, I want to see it again. These two guys are going to definitely tear the house down because now CM Punk is in the main event of the show, and I got to figure that CM Punk is going to leave the WWE champion by beating John Cena in Boston.
CM Punk wins.
Absolutely. CM Punk He has to win.
I think there's a run-in about to happen here. Like Mario or Luigi or something. Do you hear that? When the music hits, you got to look up at the ramp.
That is crazy.
He's coming.
He's somewhere.
CM Punk wins.
Yes.
Really?
CM Punk. He has to win. John Cena is already the rock star of Raw. CM Punk needs this. Hey, he has Paul Heyman in his corner right now.
That is an unknown
Paul
dynamic.
Heyman's not going to come back, and then the first night he manages against John Cena, he's going to lose. There's no way.
You are ridiculous. That's all I'm going to say. Completely ridiculous. These little bombs and these little eggs you lay to hatch later on are just, they've got to stop. They've got to stop.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not, because you keep doing it. That's it. Tomorrow night on primetime, I'm taking all your toys away. You get clean desk.
Come on.
Guest analyst
How
with us.
can I call anybody?
You won't need to, because we'll be on television. I want to remind all of you that WWE Night of Champions is this Sunday on pay-per-view. And the Pro Wrestling Report will be covering it live on Twitter, via Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter. Let's go over what David Hero has selected. It will be The Miz walking out with the Intercontinental Championship, Randy Orton defeating Dolph Ziggler and possibly becoming the World Heavyweight Champion. And of course, now he leaves. You know, when I walked out of here last week, I had a legitimate reason not to. And I've come back and I've realized how to be a professional. And this jerk is, I can't believe this. Kane and Daniel Bryan defeat R-Truth and Kofi Kingston. Caitlyn defeats Layla. Sheamus defeats Alberto Del Rio and retains the World Heavyweight Championship, but does not walk out, still the World Heavyweight Champion. That could be Randy Orton. WWE Championship, CM Punk defeats John Cena. That's WWE Night of Champions this Sunday night on pay-per-view, ladies and gentlemen. And we will be live we'll be back with you, rather, tomorrow night, as we discuss the situation that occurred this past Monday with Jerry the King Lawler suffering from that unfortunate heart attack on Raw, live on air. So, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for tuning in to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Extra, which apparently has been brought to you by Super Mario Brothers tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. You son of a... How?